I was looking down at my notes and I wrote Mirror's Edge Far Cry.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And we're back, the Digital Sea podcast for an episode that nobody needs and nobody wants. Cyberpunk 2077. We're here to talk about it. Ryan, how you doing?
Doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. You and I both rolled credits on this game. I rolled credits on it literally last night. When did you roll credits on it?
About 2 weeks ago now.
Wow, really? It's been that long?
Yeah. Yeah. I knocked this one out and I've just been in the gaming mood lately, just knocking out games left and right
Wow. Proud of you. That's awesome.
yeah.
How many
Yeah.
hours did you put into it?
This playthrough was a 97-hour playthrough.
Whew. Right there with me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, completing the all of the side missions, all the main missions, and all of the DLC content from the Phantom Liberty. There was a number of gigs that seemingly never-endingly spawn, or maybe you can eventually run out of the gig style side missions. I did not complete every single one of those because there's so dang many.
Yeah, and they get kind of repetitive after a while. The only reason you do them is to get the special little treats that the fixer gives you if you end up completing all their gigs.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's about what I put into it. And we're gonna get into all that. I can't wait. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. We debated me and Ryan kind of off air debated if we were going to even talk about this game at all because there's just so much content. I mean, there's endless hours of YouTube content on this game. One of the most hyped game releases of all time, one of the most criticized game releases of all time, and then one of the most praised game fixes of all time, right there with No Man's Sky. So it's got its fair share of coverage.
Yeah, this was a weird experience. I originally played Cyberpunk at launch on PC, and like everyone else's experience, it was awful. It was truly miserable. There's a reason why Sony pulled it off of store shelves right after launch. It was
Yeah, I
that
forgot
bad,
about that.
especially on consoles. I would argue it was completely unacceptable and unplayable with what happened to consoles. And despite technical woes and bugs and the game just not being ready for launch, the game just wasn't even feature complete. There's so many aspects of the game at launch that weren't there that really needed to be there. So yeah, it's 5 years later, and I will say it is much better. It is certainly the No Man's Sky turnaround, which CDPR could have took all the money and ran, and they didn't. So hats off to them for sticking it through and turning their product around.
Yeah, they stuck it out and made it, something that you could actually play, which was nice. I played it for about 3 hours at launch and turned it off immediately. It was like, this is just ridiculous.
Smart man.
And yeah, and played it for about 100 hours over the last, I would say about 4 weeks, and maybe a little bit more than that. And I've had overall a really great time with it, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. So yeah, me and Ryan debated if we were going to talk about this game at all, because really no one needs more content made about this game. But I think that, when you're listening to this podcast, you're hearing me and Ryan just kind of make it up as we go. It's evolving in real time. What the Digital Sea podcast means to both of us. It started out as just a way to fill the void after we stopped writing for Magnetic Magazine, and then became sort of a document of our friendship in a lot of ways. And I think that this is a game that was a huge release. It was a big game for in both me and Ryan's gaming career, life, whatever you want to call it. And it would be weird to, him and I are inevitably going to talk about it and have a big discussion about it regardless. So we might as well record it and let you guys listen to it, and so you can follow along with our friendship more than the game itself, I think. Is that how you feel about it, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. Even if the dead horse has been beat, the game came out 5 years ago. It got the Phantom Liberty DLC, I believe, in 2023. The game was getting major updates through last year, 2025, and it seemingly just continues to get better. The modding community has been all over this game. I'll talk about that in a bit. So I think this is certainly relevant. And this is CD Projekt Red's last Red Engine, I believe, game before they switch over to Unreal 5, which fingers crossed that they still allow the modding community to do their thing with their games. Modding community is really big for the Witcher games, obviously for Cyberpunk as well. I would say Bethesda, CDPR, and Rockstar are probably like the three most I don't know if mod friendly is the right words because obviously the community's got to do a lot of work, but yeah, it's just it's kind of a big moment for gaming history and CDPR as a dev team. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one.
me too. Should we do scores?
Yes.
All
Let's do
right.
scores.
Do you have yours locked in? You know what it is?
I do. It's changed a few times over the last week, but I think I finally locked in how I feel about it. I've got it.
I've got mine too. You go first.
Cyberpunk 2077. Back in 2020, I would have given a 5 out of 10. Maybe even
Yeah,
a 4 out of 10. It was broken. It was
yeah.
not a finished product. It was not enjoyable. I played way too much of it because there was something there. I think anybody who played the game at launch knows that there was something there. It was just a very unfinished something, a very broken something. 5 years later, I'm giving Cyberpunk 2077 and its DLC Phantom Liberty an 8.8 out of 10.
Are we doing not 0.5s? We're doing more than a 20-point scale?
Oh, are we just doing half points?
I
Oh,
don't.
shoot, did I mess
It's
it up? I really wanted to give this one an 8.8 because like it wasn't quite a 9 for me, but I felt like 8.5 was still too low.
yeah. Well, it's up to you. I don't really care. Who cares? Do whatever you
Okay,
want.
oh, okay.
I think you do an 8.8.
All right. Well, I could just give it a 9 too because I'd rather give it a 9 than an 8.5.
Okay. I think let's do that. Let's do a 20-point scale. Let's do 0.5 and then the number in
Okay.
0.5.
0.5.
20-point scale.
Yep. Okay.
I think we've decided that in a previous episode as well.
I think we did too. I just really felt a specific way about this game.
I understand,
sorry.
and I have those games too.
Yeah. Okay. I will give this one a 9 out of 10.
I'm going 8.5. 8.5 out of 10 for me. This game is a masterpiece in so many ways.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, this is a masterpiece that missed the mark by a little bit. I felt some things that I've never felt playing a video game in this world. I've been really frustrated with the decisions that the developers made in a lot of ways in this world. And overall, I loved my time with it. I was relieved when it was over. I was like, I had a sigh of relief last night, not because I was tired of the game, but just because it was such a journey and I was ready to move on. It wasn't like maybe Ghost of Yotai when I was so just ready to be done with it that I was so happy it was over. For this, it was just like a perfect, okay, I'm done with this now, and I'm really happy that I was here, but I'm glad that it's over, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's very easy to have that feeling when you have very long experiences in games. It doesn't necessarily have to be an open world game, but anytime you're pushing the 100-hour mark in a single player game, yeah, I feel like you're usually ready to see things off as
Yeah.
regardless of how you felt about the game.
Yeah, the only exception I have to that I can think of is maybe two games. Number one is Breath of the Wild, and number two is Elden Ring. I put 230 hours in the Elden Ring and the DLC, and I loved every minute of it.
You're still hungry?
I don't want to say hungry, but I would have been okay if there was another 10 or 20 hours worth of content.
Dang.
I love that game. Anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really cool because with Elden Ring particularly, I would argue FromSoft games are games that are only worth X amount of hours of playtime, but you end up playing significantly more of that due to the difficulty or trying to solve something or what have you. So it's that's certainly saying something because I think one could argue every FromSoft game only has X amount of hours worth of content. It's just you'll spend way more time in it because you're not going to beat everything the first time through.
Yeah.
Attempting it. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. I want to tell you about part of my experience playing this game. So when I started Cyberpunk 2077, usually what I'll do is I'll kind of see what the consensus is on what the best difficulty setting to start on is, especially with first-person shooters, because I think they could be a little bit easy when they're single player.
Yeah, especially on PC if you're playing mouse and keyboard.
Exactly. So I went and everybody said, I won't say everyone, overwhelming majority said you need to not play on the normal difficulty setting because it's very easy. Even the next difficulty setting up is a little bit too easy. Almost everybody says, even for your first playthrough, start on the hardest difficulty setting. And it's going to be challenging at first, and then you're going to become so OP by the end that you're just going to destroy everybody, even the bosses. So that's what I did. And that was not my experience. I struggled in the beginning. And yes, I got very overpowered towards the end, but the boss battles were so bullet spongy and I kind of wish I would have done the next difficulty setting down. I don't remember what the difficulty settings are called, but whatever the hardest is, that's what I played on. I wish I would have done one step below that. I think I would have had more fun playing the game. What did you play on?
Yeah, whatever standard difficulty is, both the first time I played back in 2020 and the same thing recently, I just stuck with it.
Mm,
I really like games where the action and the combat is very much so like an artistic expression, and you get to be very creative with the way that you approach combat. And some of that is definitely due to a less difficult, well, difficulty.
yeah.
And yeah, I just kept it that way. The first time I played my character was the big, strong, mantis blade arms, shotgun, light machine gun, go in there, tear everything up, never stealth anything, make a big mess, get up, up front and personal. That was the way that I played the first time through. So that the second time through, it was a net runner build, very stealthy. I don't think I got spotted by enemies any more than half the time the entire game. And once I did, it was too late. Just zipping around and throwing down quick hacks and just being a little nimble assassin build made the playthrough very fun on the standard difficulty for me because so much of it was knife play. Like all I'm doing is jumping in the air, throwing knives, sniping people, going in and out of being spotted or not. So it was very much so a difficulty that was tailored nicely to the kind of build that I had my VB.
Yeah. I think part of my problem is I never really knew what I wanted my build to be, and I didn't go net runner. I went more, I'm just
Kind of like a jack of all trades, or
kind of like, did you use Sandvistan or whatever that's called?
I did not use that this playthrough. I did use it the previous playthrough.
Okay, so you were doing quick hacks for everything.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess I did go net runner build as well because that's what I did too. But I wasn't really like a net runner though. Like I didn't have a high intelligence stat.
Okay. Yeah, by the time I rolled credits, I had a 20 in everything except for what is it? Body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I had 20 reflex, 20 intelligence, 20 cool, and 20. Oh shoot, I'm blanking on the last one.
Tech.
Tech. Thank you.
Yeah. I had the exact opposite. I had 20 in everything except for I think I had 17 in body and then like 4 in intelligence or something like that.
Hmm.
So maybe I didn't build my character right, and I kind of felt that towards the end of the playthrough. It didn't quite feel like I had utilized everything there was to utilize. That was part of my problem, and I think that if ever I get around to a second playthrough of Cyberpunk, I will enjoy it more because I'll know more where I want the build to go, what the game's about. One of my experiences early game in Cyberpunk was that things just weren't explained very well. And maybe this is just me being dumb, but the amount of times I had to alt tab out of the game to Google search something that I feel like wasn't explained to me very well in the tutorial or something like that was really annoying. And I feel like I had this experience with not just how to build your character, but also I just felt like I was uninformed. That's coming from somebody who played Baldur's Gate 3 without ever playing Dungeons and Dragons before and being able to kind of sort that out without having to Google anything. I just was able to kind of figure it out based on what the game told me. And I think that Larian was really good with guiding you along this really, really complex journey. And it just seems like CD Projekt Red kind of dropped the ball in this area. Is that how you felt your first time around? I mean, I know you were probably so focused on the bugs and everything else you were experiencing
Yeah.
with your first playthrough that you might be able to pick up on that as much. But for me, my experience was just feeling a little bit left in the dark.
Yeah, it's so hard because of how I've had two playthroughs and one was, everything's broken and yeah, I guess I wasn't even focusing on that the first time around, and then because I did play it originally once, it was very familiar by the time I played it a second time. But there are some unusual things that aren't explained very well. I think the mod system and guns and weapons is confusing. That's like the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other things that are just like kind of immediately confusing, but it's just hard because by the time I finished the second playthrough, I had like 150 hours or something of playtime into the game between both playthroughs.
Yeah.
But yeah, the systems involving your character are very deep and vast. There's a lot of stuff going on. You've got your weapons, and then you've got the tech side of things, and then you have tech weapons and smart weapons and melee weapons that you can hit people with, but also that you can throw, and then the melee weapons that you can build into your body with cybernetics. And yeah, there's just tons and tons of stuff going on kind of all at once, and you just kind of have to slowly figure out all of it throughout your playtime.
Yeah.
And especially when you're trying to spec out your build, when you're trying to envision your character and what they want to be, it can be difficult because you don't know what's possible.
Yeah, and there's crafting. There's some stuff that's unique to only crafting. I went way too far into the game without realizing that some of the stuff I was picking up were blueprints, not actually items. I don't know why
Yes.
I was too dumb to pick up on that, but I think that there could have been things that were better explained.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Now, I like a deep RPG, don't get me wrong. I love that about this game, that it is
Yeah.
very deep and it's very story driven. The majority of this game is dialogue, not fighting. In fact, combat almost feels like a bit of a secondary in Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, the game can be at odds with itself sometimes in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, man, I just really want to go and blow some stuff up, but I am just stuck in this section where I'm going to be walking very slowly and listening to a ton of dialogue and a ton of lore or whatever it is. And sometimes the game can move at a snail's pace, where at other times it moves about as fast as it possibly can.
Yeah. There's the obvious comparisons to Rockstar, right? And that's what everyone was comparing this game to when it was coming out. This is Grand Theft Auto, but Cyberpunk. And the wow factor for me playing this game on a top of the line graphics card, ultra settings, over 100 FPS easily most of the time. It was incredible. Like the rainy streets of Night City is something to behold and will be held as a and still is held as a graphical standard to this day and will be for I'm assuming at least 5 more years. And yet when you walk through those streets, I was reminded of my first time walking through Saint Denis in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Hmm.
And there's just something so cold and lifeless about the NPCs in Night City when
Ooh.
compared to a Rockstar game.
Oh my gosh. It makes you appreciate, like, we dunk on Rockstar with some of their gameplay decisions,
Oh,
some of their
yeah.
combat decisions, how sometimes things are focusing more on the realism and less on the fluidity of gameplay and the fun of things. But oh my gosh, you really take Rockstar for granted when you play Cyberpunk, even all these years after they've updated the game.
Yeah. What I will say is that Cyberpunk made a good choice because, everybody knows The Witcher 3 and every Witcher game that CD Projekt Red is known for is a third person game. They made the choice to go first person here. Really glad they didn't try to say we can do what Rockstar does and go first and third person at the same time because I think Rockstar suffers from that. I think almost every Rockstar game that tries to go first and third person, which I think right now is just GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, you
Hmm.
get sort of the worst of both worlds in the third person and first person aspect of those games.
Yeah, I think Bethesda games are a perfect example of this.
Yeah, Bethesda games
They've
are
been,
well, I think but okay, let me say this. I think Bethesda games are a first person game that they kind of enabled third person as an afterthought. And I
mhm.
think in that same vein, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are both third person games where they enabled first person mode.
Yep,
I wouldn't
yep.
quite say as an afterthought, but definitely not as the main way to play the game.
Exactly. And it's why I'm so excited for GTA 6, which is supposed to come out at the end of this year. We'll see,
Yeah.
because I believe this will be the first time from the ground up that they've created, well, let's see. Was No, first person was in Red Dead 2 from the get-go, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so this will be their second game from the ground up where first and third person will be available. So it'll be interesting to see if they've made any progress or if it's kind of the same pitfalls where one feels better than the other.
Yeah. And I like having both. If you can have both, that's great because in my time in Red Dead Redemption 2 on PC, it was a lot of I love being able to explore the world and see this like perfectly animated and well, not perfectly, but a very, very well animated rendition of your character that you're playing as, Arthur. I love seeing him in third person, walking around, interacting with NPCs. But then in combat, I would always switch to first person, and it would be this really fun FPS action combat. I love both those things, and if you can make them both perfect, that's great. All the more power to them. I just think that no developer has done that yet. I mean, if anybody can, it's probably Rockstar at this point, but we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, to your point, it was a really good decision made at whatever point in time in development for Cyberpunk that they just stuck to first person, because holy cow, if you try and drive even first person in a vehicle, oh my goodness, it's dang near impossible. I had all sorts of mods on for this playthrough, and no matter what you do, driving in first person is so claustrophobic. And this is even mouse and keyboard driving, which means I can really whip that camera around very quickly to see where I'm going. But it's, you're getting T-boned and you just don't know where the traffic's at. And again, you play from the first person perspective in GTA 5, And it's not perfect for driving, but it is certainly serviceable at the least. And I would say in Cyberpunk, it's just you have to drive in a third person perspective. It's the interiors of the vehicles are beautiful, they're immaculately made, but it just it never feels good driving in any vehicle in Cyberpunk in first person perspective.
I think I wouldn't say never. I think there are certain vehicles and motorcycles where it's much more.
Well, yes, motorcycles.
Yeah, and there's some
Motorcycles. I
vehicles
agree.
that have better visibility than others when it comes to the
Yes,
way that their cab is
right. There are
oriented and
exceptions.
designed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it is pretty bad. I pretty much found a car that I liked in first person. It would stick with that one, and I would still drive in third person every once in a while as well. But I have to say, I can't. We've talked about this a little bit off air, but I can't believe you played mouse and keyboard driving. That seems kind of unlike you, and I'm surprised you made that decision because I loved controller driving, and I feel like if you have a controller sitting next to you, I just had mine plugged in instead of going wireless mode. So it was just sitting next to me all the time, wouldn't die, and I would just pick it up whenever I needed to drive and set it down whenever I didn't. And the cool little benefit that you had or I had is it would give me vibrate. So like my couch would vibrate during the vibrate parts, which was kind of fun because I that's one thing I miss with mouse and keyboard is you don't get that vibrate sensation.
Right. Yeah, believe it or not, I've been doing this for a very long time. And it's been PC gaming that has gotten me onto this. It's certainly a double edged sword. You lose a lot of, let's see, motion based dexterity, I guess you could say, for acceleration and braking and that sort of thing, right? You don't have a trigger to pull, which means you're either pedal to the metal or braking as hard as you possibly can. And that can involve sloppiness until you get used to it. However, I love being able to whip that camera around and have super, I don't know, just a ton of mobility when you're in combat when driving. I played all of my second Red Dead Redemption 2 playthrough mouse and keyboard while on horses. All my replays of the GTA games on PC, same thing, mouse and keyboard. So it's something that I've really grown accustomed to. However, without a doubt, it's far from perfect when it comes to accelerating and slowing down. So
Yeah, I played Red Dead Redemption 2 with mouse and keyboard the whole time on the horse and stuff like that. It just seems like driving, I always want to have a controller. Although you're right, shooting while driving sucks with a controller. So I'd
yeah.
always rather have a mouse when it comes to that. But you wouldn't play like Forza on keyboard, would you?
Oh no. Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're talking a game that is very focused on driving or flying or anything like that, where you're not getting out of vehicles constantly and running around and having these long combat segments, absolutely. Gran Turismo, any sort of game with flight in it, anything like that, I need a gamepad or some other device for sure.
Okay.
Oh, you made a comment that Cyberpunk is like what? What did you say a little bit ago? Cyberpunk was like
What did I
you
say?
I was looking down at my notes and I wrote Mirror's Edge Far Cry.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
And it's much more than just Mirror's Edge Far Cry when trying to pin down, where this game gets its inspiration from and what exactly it feels like. This game feels so good to play when it comes to combat. I think driving isn't perfect, but it's certainly good. It's far better than it was at launch. It's one of those games where you just feel really, once you get good at the game, you just feel really good. You feel like an absolute boss. And especially if you have a lot of reflex skill in this game. In fact, I don't know how you could ever play Cyberpunk 2077 without a full investment in reflex. It just gives you so much mobility and it completely changes the way that you play the game. It's so much fun being able to dash and slide and double jump and super jump and all of these different things. It just
Yeah.
feels so good. And I hadn't had that level of fluidity and feeling since Mirror's Edge or Dying Light, where you're playing a first person game and you've got this crazy mobility and it just feels really, really good. The gunplay, I would say it's fantastic. It's amazing that CD Projekt Red got so many things right with this game when their previous experience was pretty much creating third person role playing games, being The Witcher. And I know we've talked about this at length off air about how, even before Cyberpunk came out, we were like, I don't know if CDPR can do this.
Yep.
Create a first person perspective game, first person shooter, massive open world in this dystopian future city. It's like the opposite of everything that they've done in so many different ways, and they pull so much of it off. But when it comes down to it, they take all of the best parts of the Far Cry systems where you've got a little base, There's going to be an alert system. There's going to be the one or two or three badass enemies at that camp or at that base. There's going to be an alarm system. There's going to be the enemies calling in backup. And, how do you tackle these situations? But what makes Cyberpunk so special is you've got your quick hacks and you've got your cybernetics and you've got all these wild weapons, and there's so much verticality to the game. There's so many different ways to approach these areas that it really just takes Ubisoft's cake and just makes a way better cake. They just bake a better cake, and they're obviously it's very CDPR. You've got, everything's very dialogue heavy. The stories and the lore is very well crafted. Obviously, they've leaned hard on Cyberpunk's existing world and lore. And now that I'm thinking about it, I remember we used to talk about how Obsidian was the development studio that takes other people's properties and does really good things with them. But now it's kind of CDPR. They did it with the Witcher books, turned it into a game. They did it with the Cyberpunk tabletop and turned it into a game. And
Yeah.
they've done both very successfully in time.
Yeah.
I'm kind of rambling here now, but it's just that those were kind of my quick rapid fire thoughts on like gameplay in the world and like why all of it is so captivating.
Yeah. I agree with almost all of that. I have a couple minor gripes when it comes to the gameplay. It feels really, really good. And I was also reminded of Mirror's Edge when you're running across the rooftops of buildings, especially in Phantom Liberty, which introduces a lot more verticality to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there isn't plenty of it in the base game as well. But little things I could tell, I could tell where they were inexperienced when it came to developing a first-person shooter. And I'm also really surprised with all the work they put into this game that they haven't fixed some of these minor gripes, or maybe I'm just weird and noticed it when other people didn't, or it doesn't jive with my gameplay very well. But so little things like
Yeah, let's hear the gripes. Let's hear them.
the fact that sprint does not interrupt other things. So if you're aiming down your sights and you hit sprint, it doesn't interrupt that. So if you're playing Battlefield 6 or something like that, if you're aiming down your sights and then you hit the sprint button, it will override aiming down the sights and just get you out of there. So that's usually what's happening, right? Is you need to get the hell out of there because you need to sprint somewhere. That's why you hit the sprint button. It will override aiming down the sights to get you sprinting. This game does not do that. So you have to get out of ADS and then sprint. It has to be very kind of calculated. And that might be a minor gripe, and maybe people are going to give me a hard time about that. And that's okay. That's fine. But I feel like this is a modern first-person shooter. It's an RPG as well, but if they want to have modern first-person shooting mechanics, they need to kind of go all in on that. There's a delay with coming out of aim down sights and throwing a grenade. So there's so many times where I'm aiming down my sights, I see a situation where enemies are clumped up, or I'm about to be surrounded, or I'm about to be flanked, or I'm about to run, and I get out of ADS and hit the grenade button, which in this game by default it's middle mouse button, and I kept it there because I didn't mind that. And there's pretty much every time I would be aiming down my sights and then get out of ADS and then quickly hit the grenade button. It would never work the first time. I'd have to click it a second time and then it would throw a grenade. And again, I think this is something weird where ADS overrides everything else, where it should be everything gets overridden. Everything overrides ADS because often you're aiming down your sights and you need to throw a grenade. You should be able to hit the grenade button. It throws the grenade and then go right back to ADS. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's little
Yeah.
things like that that really, really started to bother me, especially towards the end of the game, especially on the hardest difficulty setting.
Yeah, I could certainly see. It's interesting that you bring these things up because these are the kind of nuanced situations where playing on normal difficulty, it's not anywhere near as noticeable. And I'm still not entirely sure what kind of character build you did for your V, but mine, because it's so stealth archer equivalent of the cyberpunk world where you're just lurking in the shadows all the time and hitting people with quick hacks and sniping and everything's kind of naturally slower paced and more methodical due to the way you built your character. I didn't run into this as much, but I definitely did notice it. It wasn't as prevalent in my playthrough because of my character build.
Yeah. Little things like that did start to bug me towards the end. But honestly, the shooting mechanics, you're right, it feels really great. It does feel a lot like Far Cry 3 back in the day when you first started playing that. And you're like, oh, this is what a shooter can be. It just takes a lot of those things and iterates off of it in really good ways. It's really fun to play this game. And that can't be said about every deep RPG. It's a deep RPG that's also really fun to play.
Right.
I had a point that I forgot to bring up earlier. Can we go back a little bit?
Yeah.
So talking about comparing CD Projekt Red to Rockstar. Though we talked about the NPCs being very cold and lifeless. I want to reiterate that because there's something very uncanny valley about this world. It's so like the decoration is so beautiful, but the guts are so ugly, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so strange to be here because everybody is like a robot that has no personality or character. Oh,
I
go
wish you
ahead.
would have been there for launch. Oh, it was bad. It was
Oh
so
my
much
god.
worse. It was so much worse.
I can only imagine. I never even made it to Night City in the launch.
You'd fire your weapon in public, and every single citizen within an eye shot's radius would get down in a crouched with their hands over their head position and stay there infinitely. And this includes anyone who is in traffic. So you shoot your gun once, everyone who's in a car gets out of their car and does the same exact animation that all the pedestrians were doing outside of vehicles. There was no police system at all. As soon as you committed a crime, they would spawn the Night City PD like right on top of you. There's no escaping it. And there's no way to like not commit, like it was, you couldn't hide your crimes. So you'd be in some alley and you'd do a crime, and then all of it, like in an instance you'd hear that beep sound, like when you've been spotted or somebody's
Mm-hmm.
after you or whatever, that sound that's in the game.
Yep.
And then the police would be all over you, and then all you had to do was run away. You just like run one block down the street, they wouldn't follow you. You'd wait for the cooldown, you'd wait for your stars to go away, and that was it. It came a long way from launch, but even so, like you said, the guts, the core, the foundation that some of these systems are built on they were just never meant to be anything but set dressing for the environment.
It's incredible that they launched a game in that state. That's unacceptable. I mean, everybody knows it's unacceptable, right? And we praise CD Projekt Red for sticking with it and rolling their sleeves up and fixing the game. But the reality is that they should never have released it in that state to begin with. So I love CD Projekt Red. I'm glad they redeemed themselves. I love Hello Games. I'm glad they redeemed themselves with No Man's Sky. They should have made the game in the first place, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with Hello Games and No Man's Sky, you can at least throw a dog a bone in the sense that it was a new indie team. I think it was their first game or one of their first games. Small team. I think there's 12 people on the
Yeah.
Hello Games team.
Yeah.
Sean Murray was just essentially lying in all of his interviews, saying that like all these features were there that weren't, and he kind of just dug himself a hole on his own. But with like CDPR, this is a huge company, a successful company with lots of money, and it's just not acceptable that they launched the game when they did.
100% agree. And I'm editing our Game of the Year 2025 podcast right now, and I got to the part where we were talking about Clair Obscur, and even you said in that, and I agree with you in that episode, that you had a hard time with a game that was so broken being released, or excuse me, being winning Game of the Year that year, because for you had 30 crashes for
Mhm.
Clair Obscur. Now, I mean, this is a unique case because it only happens on some PCs sometimes, and I had 0 crashes on my rig, and you had 30 on yours. But still, that had to have come out in playtesting. There had to have been a way for them to figure that out. And Clair Obscur is not even close to as broken as Cyberpunk was when it was released, and
Oh,
it's
not
better
even
now.
close.
Okay, I had 0 crashes with Clair Obscur. I had probably 6 or 7 crashes at least with Cyberpunk 2077.
Which is super interesting. I had 700 plus mods, and I had maybe 2 crashes on my 100-hour playthrough.
Wow. Yeah, I had 700 plus mods. Jesus, I had maybe a dozen mods. Just mostly. I wanted to keep my experience mostly vanilla because it's my first time through.
Right.
So I wanted to keep it mostly just quality of life stuff or things that bugged me. But yeah, I had like a dozen mods and yeah, at least 7 crashes. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more like 10 in 100 hours. So I would probably crash once every 10 hours. Sometimes in very very inconvenient times too, like boss battles. One
Yeah.
time where I had the final boss, what's his face, Adam Smasher, who's a really difficult boss fight on the most challenging difficulty setting, and I had him down to 5% and I crashed. I was so pissed.
Which means a lot when you're playing on those higher difficulties too,
Yeah,
because I get to the end, I'm 100 hours in, I fight Smasher, and it's like, all right, like,
it's like a 5-minute fight or something like that.
oh, not even. It's just I go in there, just absolutely shred him.
Oh my god! For
It's
me, that
over.
Adam Smasher probably took me 10 tries, and each try was like a 25-minute fight before I died. It was really frustrating. It was
Ooh.
it was not the way to play the game, and I think that that influenced my feelings about it a lot, and it really heightened every little imperfection that they have. And you know what? Another thing, this is kind of a side tangent, but I really hate when I don't really know what the solution to this is. I'm not a developer, and I'm really just talking out of my ass here, but I've played a lot of games. I've interviewed developers. I've written about games. I don't like when when you increase the difficulty, you are simply increasing the health of enemies and decreasing the health of yourself. I feel like there should be a little tweak to the AI, which I know is a lot to ask, or more enemies, or less resources, or something like that, because I just hate bullet sponginess. And I guess that's what RPG shooters are, and that was on me for choosing that difficulty. But I don't know. Maybe I'm complaining about nothing here, but I just don't like when it's, oh, you want more difficulty? Well, you have to use 6 more magazines of ammo to kill this boss. There you go. It's like that doesn't really make it harder. It just makes it more tedious.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about, and I agree with what you're saying. I think when you look at a FromSoft game and it only has a single difficulty, it makes a lot of sense. It does genuinely have to be very difficult to create good difficulty settings. I think the reason
Yeah.
why the industry does this is because it's exactly what you say. More health points, you do less damage, you take more damage, and that's pretty much all the higher difficulties. You play, you know, Call of Duty back in the day, the campaign, and you're trying to beat it on veteran mode or whatever, and it's, 1 or 2 shots and you're dead. And or now the aimbot for the AI is like really intense and really hyperactive, and now you're just getting shot perfectly all the time.
Yeah, but I believe in even in like Halo back in the day, they would make the elites flank you and use better strategies on higher difficulty settings on legendary. And I just wish more games would implement that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great example. Another good example would be the game Fear. If anyone ever played that one, that game
Hmm.
also had really good AI. And as we know, when you play most RPGs, AI is usually not the strong suit, and it certainly shows up here as well, in a number of different ways. Even outside of combat, you look at the pathfinding of the NPCs, you look at the pathfinding of traffic and vehicles driving throughout the city, and it's just not good.
Yeah,
Again, it's way better than it was at launch, but it falls short for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I'm totally with you. But I would say, at least in developers' defense, I bet it's very difficult. I bet it's super tough to create like genuinely good difficulty settings. I think it would take a lot of effort to do well.
right.
And
You have to
yeah,
ask yourself, is it worth the developers spending time on that when they could be polishing other things, which I understand.
yeah.
Realistically, it was my mistake for going on the hardest difficulty setting. What I probably should have done was start on the second hardest difficulty setting, and then if that was too easy, then I could have bumped it up. But by the time I'm also stubborn, and I was like, well, I'm already this far, so I'm going to beat the whole thing on the hardest difficulty setting. I got this.
I do the same thing. I'm like, nope, nope. I've made it this far
Yep.
on this one difficulty. I'm not going to bend the knee now.
Yeah.
And then of course you get punished for not bending the knee.
And it did have this incredibly gratifying loop of really feeling like I was struggling with every fight in the beginning, and then eventually, like most fights, I would just completely destroy people. It was just the boss fights that would give me any trouble at all. And I do think that I didn't build my character as well as I could have.
Yeah. Did you respec at all as you played the game?
I didn't, but again, it was mostly because here's another one of my problems with the game, and this is a me thing. This is not a Cyberpunk game thing. I'm trying to think about how I want to word this because I know I don't want to make people mad at me because I know that this game is so well loved, but I just don't know how much I love Cyberpunk. You know?
The world, the lore, the game itself. Elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know all of it. Maybe I really like the idea of Cyberpunk as a genre. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is a near perfect as far as like the visual vibe goes. It's pretty much
Mhm.
perfect, and I really like that style. But it doesn't resonate with me in the same way that maybe a fantasy RPG does or a space RPG does. I like Mass Effect's world a lot more than I like the world of Cyberpunk 2077. I'm interested in all the lore. I'm watching deep dives in Mass Effect or The Expanse and I did do that with Cyberpunk. I watched some videos on what the lore was with Cyberpunk, but it doesn't speak to me in the same way. And everybody has their thing, and that's okay. If people love Cyberpunk, I think that this is such a deep and rich lore heavy world to fall in love with. I totally understand why you would,
Mhm.
but it was hard for me to engage in the RPG mechanics of the game as much as I might have if I loved everything going on in this, all the vibes of this world, everything going on here. Does that make sense? So like when it came
Mhm.
to Sandvistan and Netrunners and body mods, I mostly just tried to choose things that were functional to meet the ends of the gameplay that I wanted, and not so much really get into the role of my character. And I think that was another problem I had with the game.
Yeah, so it just it kind of sounds like just the world and the lore and what Cyberpunk is just something that is less appealing to you than something like Mass Effect or other worlds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I mean, how do you feel about it? Would you rate Cyberpunk as a genre in your top three? Like, where does Cyberpunk fit in your love of different lore vibes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough because I would have to say, at least for myself, yeah, just speaking for myself, this is something that's still new to me,
Mhm.
and honestly, I love it. I really do. I think the music is right down my alley. It's very electronic heavy. It's very thrashy. It's very high energy. It's very loud. I like all of that. I love the dystopian take on kind of a collapsed and sort of kind of recovering, corporate overlord society that could very much so be a potential future in our lives, in real life. I think that human cybernetics and human modification is going to be the future. I think we probably won't see a whole lot of it in our lifetimes, but I think that's something that we're going to see. I think we're going to see this, potential class, like an even further separation of class and a divide of people when the rich can not only be rich but very much so smarter than everyone else because of these augmentations. I'm not super huge on the lingo of the world, people saying tune
Yes, this is something I was going to bring up.
and that sort of thing. I'm not as on board with that. It's not that it really bothers me that much. It's just that it's that sort of stuff isn't for me. It's not anything that enhances the game. I think you could pretty much throw all of the lingo out and it could be fine. Yeah, I do really genuinely like the world. I think it's a lot of fun to have this like obnoxious advertisements everywhere and everything's hypersexual and the human existence is not good enough. Like we always have to make it better and we got to throw more tech at everything because that's kind of how our world is now, like especially with AI and kind of how everything is trending in real life. I think it's very representative of a potential future, and it does a really good job of that. But I know what you mean, though. There's something about Cyberpunk, at least in this game and this interpretation, that can be almost a bit silly
Yeah, and
sometimes.
for me, I mean, this is a very prevalent time to be playing this game because of all the AI things that are happening right now. It just feels. I mean, I was texting you, and I were texting back and forth a little bit about this throughout our playthroughs. Is that this is very there'll be like a advertisement on the radio or TV show or whatever it is you're watching in Cyberpunk, and we text each other say, "Oh my God, this is such a weird time to be playing this game," because it feels. You're right, what you just said earlier. It feels like this is kind of within our grasp. Like I don't think you're right. It's not going to be in our lifetime, but I could see in maybe 2 or 3 or 4 lifetimes from now, this is going to be very real. But there's the game and the vibe is missing an X factor that I can't quite put my finger on. And I've been trying to really hard before we came to this conversation. But there's something about this world where maybe it's just the time of my life that I'm at, right? Maybe it's just I'm not in the mood for it the way that I thought I was. Maybe if I play this game a second time through, I'm going to completely change my mind and fall in love with it. I could see that because this game is top tier. This is one of the best games ever made. It's in the top, I don't know what number, whatever, throw out a number, top 50 games ever made or something like that.
Mhm.
But for me playing it, I didn't ever get that moment except for maybe very, very briefly in the beginning or maybe the beginning middle of my playthrough where I was completely enveloped in the world and the story. I was completely immersed in what was happening in the same way that I would say I got with Red Dead Redemption 2 or Mass Effect or Breath of the Wild or any of the other those top experiences that I really, really loved. I kind of
Mhm.
always kept this world at an arm's reach for some reason. It reminded me a little bit of my experience with Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I like the lore, I like the vibe, I love everything that's going on, but it just didn't quite suck me in a way that I hope these masterpiece experiences would. And I'm not sure why.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This could be something where it just didn't click, or there's something, some level of immersion was off, or just like you said, it's missing a piece, and not quite sure what exactly that is, but you can feel it, and when you feel it, you know it.
Yeah. And I mean, I know the devs are capable of it because they got me with The Witcher 3. I love that game and I felt very immersed and I wanted to know everything about the lore and talk to all the NPCs. And you know what? I even feel like the NPCs in The Witcher 3 felt more alive and there than they did in Cyberpunk. So I'm not sure what happened. I think it was just a combination of them taking on such an ambitious title. I mean, there's no doubt about it. This is one of the most ambitious world maps that's ever been created. It is incredibly dense. It's incredibly detailed and beautiful and thought out. It's truly a wonder to just walk around Night City.
Yeah, I think you said it. You said it already, where the guts are not there.
Yeah,
Right? It's missing the guts. There's something on the inside that isn't just. It's not quite fleshed out, and it doesn't quite round things out the way that it should.
yeah,
I wrote in my notes, Cyberpunk is the most immersive game I've ever played. It's also the most unimmersive game I've ever played.
yeah, yeah.
This could be NPC behavior. I'm watching the cutscenes in the background as we speak right now, like we usually do. One of the things that drove me nuts, and I can't believe they never fixed. I cannot believe this was still in the game when I played it, where when you're sitting in a vehicle and someone else is driving, it feels like when a child has a Hot Wheels car and
Yes.
they are like jerking the car around very unrealistically because their imagination is doing the rest, and
Yep.
so it's fine for them, or they're a kid or whatever, and so it is what it is. I'm shocked. It's like, wait, how come you just didn't drive the car with the game mechanics that are already in here and
Exactly.
then
It's
put the
like
camera in the car? I was like, what is happening? You feel like you're
yeah.
on a hoverboard or a weird space shuttle,
It's like
or
they come up to a corner and then do a 90-degree turn and then keep driving.
yeah. And
It's
I'm like,
really funny.
all you had to do was have a real player, one of your QA guys, one of your game testers, very politely and nicely drive the vehicle from point A to point B, put the camera, at the right location in the car, and then roll your cutscene, where the character is doing the exposition dump, and now we're up and running.
Yeah.
But instead, it's like this weird jerky thing, just small things like that, where you're like, or the NPCs, and obviously I don't mean story related NPCs, those are done very well. They're animated very well. They look incredible. Oh my gosh. Absolutely insane how good some of these characters look when they're side or main characters, you're talking to them. But
Yeah.
the rest of the world is so uncanny amongst this beautiful, beautiful Night City that has been painstaking. They put so much blood, sweat, and tears to make these environments look as good as they do, only for the guts to be not great. It's just
Yep.
so obvious, and it sucks. I hate this, and it reminds me a lot of kind of when I was complaining about Clair Obscur, which I hate complaining about it because it's an indie team. It's their first game. It's an amazing experience, yada yada. But like, they make the game look so good, and then the animations are just not good, and it's like all you can think about because it's like oil and water.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, it's tough.
You're right. There's a lot of little things like that that add up. One thing that I noticed was there's moments where you'll be playing a mission and you'll be at some place with an NPC, part of the main, even the main quest line, and they're like, "Hey V, I'm gonna go to that spot that we need to go to do the mission. I'm getting in the car. Do you want to ride? Or do you want to meet me there?" And I'm like, "Oh shit,
Oh,
yeah, maybe I'll ride with you. That sounds cool. Like maybe we're gonna get some rock star dialogue here. Maybe they're gonna talk to me about something. Maybe I'm gonna get something cool that happens along the way." Nope.
run,
Nope.
run!
You
It's never
sit in
worth
the
it.
car. You sit in the car and they drive, just like you were saying, Hot Wheels kid style, silently. And maybe there's a little dialogue. Maybe they throw you a bone with, I don't know, 30 seconds of dialogue. But it is pretty much a dead silent drive from location to location. Why would they even let that be an option? Why would CD Projekt Red, if you're listening, why the fuck would you let that be an option? It is a
Ugh.
waste of your time. And in fact, this has been a theme of some of our episodes of developers wasting our time. And this is absolutely no exception. CD Projekt Red has so many goddamn time wasting moments. It pisses me off so much.
Yeah, there's so much of it. The biggest complaints I always hear from Rockstar games is, it's another scene where you're in a car or you're on the horse and you're slowly moseying about and having conversation and stuff. But it's like, at least they do it well.
Yeah.
Where
And at
this
least
is
they
just,
give you something to do when you're doing, like, you got to drive there anyways. You might as well get some extra lore from this character. And it's always really, really well voice acted.
mhm.
Rockstar never throws you some mediocre bone. They're giving you top quality content for this drive, which is always sometimes funny, sometimes sad, but it's always worth it.
They line up the screenplay with the distance in which you have to travel. Where Cyberpunk, it's like they'll give you two
Exactly.
lines of dialogue from the character that's in the car with you, and then it's dead silence for like the next 10 minutes of the drive as you physically make it all the way across the city. And one other thing really quick side tangent, when the pathfinding of the vehicle gets jacked up and so they just smash through cars and traffic, but there's no
Yes.
resistance. So like it's it's like this wrecking ball. Like you're in the car and you're the wrecking ball and you're just smashing like 10 cars out of the way with
Yep.
no resistance because
And sometimes the cars
we're
will
moving
explode
forward.
and like no cops
Yeah.
get called. You're just rolling, rolling through.
And meanwhile you're sitting in silence.
Yes, it's complete silence. Oh my God. It's
You
so
know,
funny.
no, there's no banter of like, hey, get out of the way, or hey, I'm walking here. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
You're constantly reminded this is not Rockstar. This is CD Projekt Red. And they do some
yeah,
things better than Rockstar, but not much.
yeah,
I'm not saying that they should be Rockstar. They should be their own thing. But they have to have had a moment when they were playtesting to say, somebody could have said, hey, let's cut that whole, do you want to ride to the next objective V thing, because it's boring and it's a waste of time and maybe it's kind of immersive, but it's just you have to sacrifice some immersiveness for respecting people's times. And I think I'm more sensitive to games disrespecting my time now that I have less of it and now that I'm older.
yeah. And when you've played as many games as we have over the years too, I think that's a big part of it as well. Your tolerance for something that you do a lot of becomes smaller and smaller as you do it more and more. The last year or so, with my job at work, I work on computers. I come home, I use computers. Like I have no tolerance for technology holding back my production. It drives me
Yeah,
absolutely insane. I don't like that I'm becoming this way, but again, like the more time you spend doing something, the less bullshit that you're willing to put up with. And that includes video games and time wasters.
yeah,
Like, I don't care.
absolutely.
Like, this is a massive experience. This is going to be a huge, massive game. Like, you don't need to waste my time here. There's no need for padding. Like, this is a huge experience. Like,
Exactly.
please cut the fat, please.
While we're on this topic, I'm going to bring up another thing that really bothered me when it comes to time wasting. And maybe you didn't experience this. Maybe this is just a ultra difficulty setting experience, but the checkpoints that they give you in this game are bullshit.
I am F5 and F9 in like a absolute oh shoot, what is it called? Scum saving son of a bitch. You know,
Me too.
I
Me too, but it
yeah.
won't let you. It won't let you in some cases. It just won't
Oh,
let
you're
you.
right. You're right. So you can't save during this time.
Yep.
Even on the quick saves. You're right.
A really good example of this, I have two down, but I know one off the top of my head, which is the final boss battle. Let me see. Let me check my notes. Okay, so I have two. The final boss, well, basically the final boss fight, which is Atom Smasher. And spoilers, obviously, for the whole end of the game here. But when you get into that boss fight, and there's like a whole cutscene where Rogue. It might depend on the choices you made and which ending you chose, actually. But did you choose the Rogue Johnny ending, where you go into Arasaka with Rogue?
I went with Pan Am. Yeah.
Okay. Did Panam live?
Yes.
Okay. So I went in with Johnny and Rogue into Arasaka. And there's this moment where Rogue says some stuff to you, and then you crawl under a garage door. And then right as you crawl into the garage door, Adam Smasher smashes in, kills the shit out of Rogue. And like there's some dialogue. And then the fight with Adam Smasher starts. Well, I was playing on the hardest difficulty setting, and I probably died 10 times to Adam Smasher. Every time I died, I'm back under that garage door. Rogue's lifting it up. She gives me your dialogue. Adam Smasher breaks through. You go flying. Rogue goes smashing onto the ground. Adam Smasher smashes his fist into her chest, picks her up. Rogue throws a grenade into his chest gear. It blows up. He goes, oh, and then Rogue says some shit. And then you go, no, Rogue. And then you get up, and then the fight starts. It probably takes, I don't know, 2 minutes or a minute or something like that. But the fact that that's the checkpoint, when this is the final boss battle, and it's a hard boss battle, and yes, maybe most characters are OP right now, but you have to imagine this is your hardest boss battle, right? And you're going to make the checkpoint not the beginning of the fight with Adam Smasher, but the beginning of the dialogue that leads to the fight of Adam Smasher. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? That's absolute dog shit. There's another quest called Knocking on Heaven's Door, and this is
Yeah. Towards the end.
towards the end.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's you start to, for me again, this is with my Rogue and Johnny ending. Me and Rogue start off in like at the afterlife, and we go into her transport ship or whatever those flying taxis are, fly up into the air, have some dialogue, look out at the city. Oh, this is the last mission. I can't believe this. We're reminiscing. Missiles get shot at us. Holy shit, there's missiles coming in. Oh man, we're smashing into the building. We smash through the building. We fall. Then we have to get up, and then we have to go and find the pilot of the transport and save him from a bunch of people. Well, I go in there, do something dumb, throw a grenade, and just die immediately. Well, where does it start me back? There's a checkpoint when we smash into the building and have to get up and go find the pilot. No, No, the checkpoint is when you first started that fucking dialogue 10 minutes ago, and you have to sit through all that shit. And yes, you can hit C or whatever the button you have default is and get through the dialogue quickly. But why in the fuck would CD Projekt Red make that the checkpoint? That is ridiculous. There's to make you replay all the dialogue you just sat and listened to. It's immersion breaking and it's ridiculous. I just can't believe that that is what those are the checkpoints. And again, this is probably a ultra difficulty setting problem, and it's not a lower difficulty setting problem. But to me, I really noticed this, and it just wasted so much of my time. It really bothered me, so I had to go on that side tangent.
Yeah, and I would argue it's not an issue exclusively with Cyberpunk either. I mean, there's so many games that still do this where you're just like, whoever was in charge of putting the checkpoints down, like, why here? Unless your game is intentionally difficult where they want you to replay large segments because they want you to beat it all in one go, like a la Demon Souls or something like that, or whatever other game you want to that has the same thing going on. But yeah, it's in a game like this and a single player RPG where you can save scum and reload as many times as you want. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, super strange. And especially in this case, like with some games it makes sense, right? The game gets released, it gets a couple updates and that's it. But this is a game that has continued development for 5 years. Like why kind of like the goofy Hot Wheels car thing. Like why is this not ironed out?
Yeah,
Why did nobody go back and change that?
yeah.
Because you're going to be updating the game for the next 5 years. You might as well continue working on the things that aren't good. But
Guess you got to set your priorities.
yeah.
How did you feel about V as a character?
You know what? I didn't like male V the first time I played the game. I
Mm-hmm.
really did like female V the second time that I played the game. I
Okay.
think the voice acting performance is just better overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was overall mixed. Yeah, I would say this playthrough really enjoyed it. Last playthrough, not so much.
Yeah. It's hard because, again, I don't want to just keep comparing them to Rockstar because I wouldn't say it's unfair. I think they're both big AAA developers, but I thought Male V was fine. He was my homie. He was cool, but I didn't have an attachment to him the same way that I did Arthur in Red Dead Redemption 2, or
Oh yeah,
even
not at all.
John Marston in Red Dead Redemption 1, or Joel in The Last of Us, or I could go on. And then on the other side of that spectrum is the Elder Scrolls, right? Like Skyrim, you are that character. There is no V of Skyrim. It's you. You are the Dragonborn, you know?
Hmm.
So it was just another thing kind of pulling me out of this experience a little bit, and there's this whole cyberpunk world, is that if I had a main character to really sink my teeth into, I would have liked it more. Now everyone was loving Keanu Reeves being in the game.
Hmm.
I love Keanu Reeves. I know that he's a one-dimensional actor. I don't care. I just like him.
Yeah, and
And
I would argue same thing with what's his name, Idris.
Idris Elba.
Yeah,
Yep, who you
yeah.
would recognize from The Office. But although he is a very talented actor, I would say he's on a different level than Keanu Reeves, but he
Hmm.
is a bit one-dimensional as well, I would say. But I think he
Yeah,
has more range and he has more just raw talent than
yeah. I agree with
Keanu
that.
Reeves does. But I fucking hated Johnny Silverhand as a character. He really just annoyed the shit out of me the whole game. And I
Yeah.
liked V moderately more, but not that much more. He's just kind of a dumbass. Not a dumbass. He's just kind of a merc. And he suits that world really well, but he's not like lovable in the same way. You know,
Yeah.
and Ryan, I know you've watched The Expanse, the TV show, and I'm reading the Expanse novels right now.
Hmm.
And a character that I think they were trying to make male V emulate is Miller, who's played by Thomas Jane, who is the detective in the first couple seasons of The Expanse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
I love Thomas Jane. I think he's a very good actor, and I think that he emulates that like noir, gritty. I know that V is a merc and not a detective, but it's still trying to be that like kind of gritty Max Payne style. Like I don't care about anybody or anything. Man, this is all we're chooms, bro. I don't know. He's trying to emulate that, and Thomas Jane does it perfectly. V and the voice actor and what CD Projekt Red have created in that character is just not quite that.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Keanu Reeves' history is with doing voiceover or voice acting itself and not himself being on the screen. So I wonder if this is a little bit of it. I
Well,
think
he was
Johnny's
in a really quick. He was in a movie. Keanu Reeves was in a movie called A Scanner Darkly, which was all animated, and he
okay.
did the voiceover for it. It's very good.
Okay. So it's not okay, so this isn't his first rodeo doing voiceover work where he's not on screen then.
It shouldn't be. I think he did mocap work for Scanner Darkly, and he probably does the same for Johnny, I would imagine. So
Yeah.
this isn't his first go around with that in that regard. Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely good to know because I'm just assuming like, oh, I don't know, this is probably like his first, video game that he's been in, or and that might be the case, but still, I would say animated or CGI voiceover work would be pretty comparable to something that you do in game. This Johnny Silverhand's definitely supposed to be a character that you hate and don't like. He's in your brain, you're getting really frustrated with him. He's always kind of planting ideas and thoughts in your head. The game is definitely intentionally pushing his character in that obnoxious direction,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's something about it that's just kind of off. And I don't know if it's just simply Keanu's not the right part for this. I don't know if it's the director not directing Keanu in a way in which it's kind of beneficial to the character. But I agree with you. It's every time Johnny comes up, I do like him as you get closer to the end of the game because you kind of get the full picture of what he's supposed to be as a character
Yeah.
and who he's supposed to be, because he's like part of you and, pretty
Yeah.
much the entire game.
He grew on me for
Um,
sure.
yeah, but I know what you mean though, where you just don't like him, and it doesn't help that I feel like the performance is lacking, or there's just something off. Again, maybe this is another guts thing, or we're missing some guts here, or something's just a bit off despite the intention.
Yeah. And I think that going into from the marketing of Cyberpunk 2077, after all these years, I just imagined the story to be something different. I thought it was going to be something else, and it wasn't, and that's okay. I wish I was more attached to V. I wish there were more romance options, although I really liked Pan Am. I wish there was more options because she's pretty much the only female romance option you can have, to my knowledge, if you're a male V.
I believe that's true. I think maybe the police agent guy is bisexual. I think maybe both male and female V can romance him. I of
Yeah.
course played a modded playthrough where I could romance everybody, so I kind of forgot who was what. I remember Judy. Judy is for female V in vanilla game. Pan Am is for male V in vanilla,
Hmm.
and then I believe the detective guy is either or.
I was looking
I could
for
be
a
wrong.
mod that made you be able to romance everybody, and I couldn't find it, so that sucks. But
Yeah, I'm in the point in my life where I just hit the collection button on Vortex and just let it do all the heavy lifting for me, and just whatever's in it is in it.
yeah,
Just kind of that's how I've been mass modding games lately. So yeah, I don't even know what's in the in the mod collection half the time.
yeah, because I like Judy as a character quite a bit.
Yeah,
There
Judy's
are really
cool.
good characters in this game. See, I don't want it to be like we're shitting on the game too much because I know we're kind of getting our gripes out, but I really do think this game is amazing. I don't think it resonated with me in the same way that it might have resonated with everybody, but this game is really, really good. It has
Yeah,
a lot of flaws. Most games do. I think that CD Projekt Red has made a barely missed masterpiece here. I think calling it a masterpiece is a bit of an overstatement, but I think that it's really close.
no, I agree with that. Yeah, and in traditional CDPR fashion, the storytelling's dark, and also like the Witcher games, the some of the side content in this game is very, very dark.
Yeah.
Sometimes comically dark. I think I wrote down one note here. Take a gambling dude's car who has a baby mama.
Yeah. I let him keep the car.
Crucify a dude for a brain dance.
That was awesome.
There's a number of moments where you're like, this is morbid and awful, but so enjoyable because it's a video game.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it. It's terrible, and I usually wouldn't enjoy content like this. But again, it's the beauty of the medium where things can be disgusting, borderline disgusting, and still be enjoyable because it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I know just a few episodes ago when we were talking about Alan Wake, I talked about this. This is probably the best ray tracing implementation that we've seen in games. Yeah, well, we just finished Cyberpunk finally after all these years, and yeah, Cyberpunk 2077's path tracing and HDR implementation is absolutely insane. It is
Yep.
so immersive. Just Night City and the lighting and the HDR, the path tracing. Holy smokes! It
Yeah.
is absolutely insane. Which of course wraps back to like, why are the guts so gross sometimes when it
Yeah.
kind of pulls you out of those experiences. I was able to have a couple mods in my collection that kind of heightened the immersive experience. I had a really nice HUD mod, so the HUD was always turning off just at the right times when playing the game, and also being able to consume items visually that you actually have in your inventory. So you could buy cigarettes, you could eat food, you could drink alcohol, and then you could physically smoke a cigarette or drink booze and get drunk or eat food and that sort of thing. And it was just very, very immersive. I do not believe I played the first 22 hours of my 97-hour playthrough without any mods before I added the entire mod collection onto the game because I did want to experience what progress had been made, vanilla, and yeah, just being able to add some of the little immersion mods certainly helped a ton with kind of feeling like you're in this world.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a few of those mods on as well. It was a lot of fun.
As far as the mainline story goes, I got to admit, I wasn't impressed with the story the first time I played, and now that I've played the finale and played the DLC, I'm still not super wild about the main story. How do you feel?
Pretty much the same. It didn't. First of all, I don't like the trope that's going on these days in RPGs, and maybe it's just the two that I've played. I'm gonna drop a little bit of a spoiler here in for Baldur's Gate 3, but you find out really early on in the game, so not too much of a spoiler. But the whole like there's something in your brain that we need that you can't get rid
Yeah.
of, and the whole story is gonna be you getting this thing out of your brain. Like it's like okay, well, the thing I'll say I liked about Cyberpunk's story in that regard is that it's making you confront mortality in a way that I wish they would have explored more deeply in the dialogue of the game, which you never quite get. Because Cyberpunk's a game where you're playing as a dying man. And now I don't want to give any spoilers for anything else, but we both and Ryan, I don't want you to give any spoilers here either, but we both know of a game where you also play as a dying man.
Yeah,
You know the one I'm talking about.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. How much during that game do you just completely confront that concept of the things that you've done and the path you've chosen and where you've ended up? And then the game ends and you're just left sort of speechless with this emotional journey through human mortality. Not least of all because we all are going to, whether we like it or not, do that someday. And it reminds us of that. And Cyberpunk had the opportunity to kind of be a version of that. But in my opinion, it kind of takes the action movie, no, I can overcome this kind of vibe instead of the true grappling with the fact that your death is coming more quickly than you wanted it to. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that the story for Cyberpunk has left me wanting. I think the stakes were relatively low.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think I agree with what you're saying, but I do feel like the cyberpunk world is so violent, and there's so many times where this world is creating this world depicts human life as just exposable. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't know
Or
how
disposable.
Russia. What did I say? Sorry.
Exposable.
Oh, sorry, disposable. Yes,
Yeah.
I don't even know what exposable means. Disposable. Kind of like a, I don't know, a Russian soldier in World War II, where
Hmm.
it's just everything's for the meat grinder, and they vocalize this a lot, right? You've got Trauma Team, where it's like, oh, you want to live? Well, you have to be like insanely rich and have like the craziest healthcare, which isn't too far off from real world stuff. But there's so many times where you witness dialogue or a certain scene in this game that just, it's like, look, you're going to die and it's not going to matter because this is this dystopian night city, world that we live in. And in
Yeah.
that way I really like it, where like
Yeah.
everyone's life is just genuinely not worth anything except for, the few that are rich, where their lives are worth something.
Hmm.
So in that part, I get it. Like, it's on note with the existing lore in this game, but I know what you mean. It becomes much more relatable. The more human something is, especially as you're playing as that character, the more you can kind of get emotionally invested and kind of have feelings that character is going through.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it does fit in that world, but I would also argue that death is not any nearer in Night City than it is in that other game that we were referencing earlier.
True.
You know,
Absolutely true.
I'm trying to not spoil the game we're talking about, and most people can probably figure out what I'm saying, but I'm not going to say it just because I don't want to drop a random spoiler for a different game in a Cyberpunk podcast. So,
Yeah.
because I truly want people to experience that game for what it is when they come across it. Yeah, yeah. I think so. I think Phantom Liberty added a better story. It added higher stakes. It added more fun lore. I think that
Yep.
saving the president. Oh my
I
god.
rolled I rolled that hard.
Yes. And I have to bring this up. I have to bring this up.
And Idris bonking you,
Yeah.
like bopping you over the head, and then it's like, oh, like, you're working for me. And it's like, oh, classic. Nice. Okay, here we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I have to bring this up
Sorry.
though.
Yeah, yeah. What do you got to bring up?
The first quest in the Phantom Liberty DLC. It's like an hour and a half quest or something like that. That fight, that fight on the hardest difficulty setting. I think I was like level 45 going into it. I probably should have leveled up to 50, but that fight on the hardest difficulty setting, fighting mech, the mech tank
Oh, yeah.
was absolute absolute dog shit. I can't, I cannot emphasize enough how much I liked this quest as far as the action and the story went at first, and how much I left that quest fucking hating it. It left a sour taste in my mouth throughout the entire DLC. That quest was such
That's pretty early
absolute
on too
dog shit. You
in the
have
DLC.
to basically, if you're on the hardest difficulty setting, you have to just run laps around that whole arena, and one hit from that thing kills you. One stray explosive, and he shoots missiles all the time. Insta kills you. It is complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. And then his health bar resets halfway through. It is. It was one of my least favorite experiences throughout the entire Cyberpunk playthrough. Even Adam Smasher was nothing compared to this. It was such horseshit. I hated it. I had to get that out of there.
I probably shouldn't. I probably shouldn't say this, but I had the perk where you can see enemy weak points, and it was such an easy fight because you could just see all the weak points on the
I did too.
machine. And I
I
have
did too.
and I have
I had
this
that. I had
big
that
old
perk too.
sniper rifle, and I'm just like boom, 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 and then the fight's over.
Yep, I had that perk too.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Didn't matter. But I'm sitting here looking at my screensaver that's now started on my computer, and it's got all my screenshots from the games that I played, and I keep seeing these Cyberpunk screenshots come up, and I mean, it was such a journey. I really did love it. It was such a fun experience, and I just look at my character, my V, and these little poses I put him in this beautiful environments with crazy path tracing, and it's just like it was a really good experience. I give it a solid 8.5. Not a masterpiece, but a very, very good game, and I'm happy with the time I spent in it. The photo mode. You want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah. I think. Granted, I had mods, so take this for what you will. But I love the photo mode. I thought it was great. I'm glad we waited for Nvidia to fix their 50 series drivers. It was
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, it takes a lot of messing around with to make poses with your character look. Certainly helps a lot if you have a million poses to go through, because eventually you'll find one that fits the environment nicely. I had some insane screenshots that I'm just so proud of because I spent like 30 minutes, on one screenshot, lining everything up just right. So, how was your experience?
yeah. I'm excited to see some of your screenshots. I loved it. It was a good photo mode. I think that there's certain things that were unintuitive in the beginning, but made sense to me towards the end because I realized they were doing it to
Hmm.
give you more precision in the photo mode. It's a photo mode that you can obviously get very photorealistic shots. I think that it's a photo mode that I weirdly liked taking black and white shots in, even though it's such a
Hmm.
colorful, beautiful game. It's just fun to add that grit to it. And I've been getting, over the years, way more into it used to be called back in the Skyrim days, back on the forums in the 2011 or 12. It used to be called screen archery. I think now it's transitioned into more.
Hmm.
I think it's more known as virtual photography. But I just love photo modes. I love getting really cool screenshots, and I love adding them to my screensaver and being able to look at them. It just makes me so happy, and it makes me so like you said, proud earlier. Like I am proud of the shots that I get to take, and I'll post them on different forums or Reddit or whatever, and it's a lot of fun, and it just gives me these. It's a scrapbook of these amazing memories that you get to make when you have this hobby. It's something that's to me kind of unique to video games. I really also
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
back when Tumblr was the thing. I used to love blogging like screenshots of film that I really liked. There was a couple that I followed called the final image. Like one was called the final image that would just post the final shot of films, and I just found that so interesting. Like, what do directors decide to be the final image of a film? I think that's a really interesting concept. And you can get the same thing in video games. Like you can just get those moments that capture something. And sometimes it's something funny, sometimes it's a bug or a glitch, or sometimes it's just like a silly moment. But oftentimes just you setting up this beautiful shot that you look at later and it invokes an emotion in you that brings you back to it. So I appreciate a game with a good photo mode, and Cyberpunk definitely delivers on that for the most part. I think there's some weird things there were weird choices that they made,
Yeah.
but
No, I totally
it's
agree.
it's one of the best photo modes out there.
Not a photo mode related thing, but kind of related. Did you laugh out loud when the brain dance editor came up? And I'm like, you motherfuckers. First you had investigative Geralt Witcher 3 thing that like changed the entire industry, and like every single game had to have this like I'm a detective now. Click the right stick on your controller, and now you can see footprints in the sand to help quests get moved along, and here we are
Yeah,
again, them trying to reinvent the wheel with the brain dance editor. I thought this one was more cleverly done, and they didn't overdo it to death like it was done in The Witcher. I think one of the worst parts of The Witcher is having him do his spidey senses every 5 seconds to run through the grass to see where the rest of the quest is at. I just got super tired of that when playing The Witcher. But I did think I thought this was funny because I was just like, damn it, you guys, you did just I didn't think we were gonna have to do anything like this in the game.
Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna catch on the same way that the Witcher senses did, but I'd rather have Witcher senses, to be honest, and like explore an environment. I found the brain dance thing to be a little bit annoying.
Yeah, conceptually and like as far as lore goes, it's very cool, right? Take an experience that another human being has and then relive that experience with all the feels. Like conceptually, the idea behind it is very cool.
Yeah,
But when it comes to you playing detective with it, it just I don't know. I'm tired of this in games. And unfortunately, CDPR is the pioneers. Well, maybe not the pioneers, but the team that made it popular. And to see it again in one of their games, I was like, yeah, all right, here we go. Like, let me scan the thing or whatever so
yep,
I can see where the story goes. But
yep. I felt the same way.
well, any final thoughts on Cyberpunk? I feel like we're kind of
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. I was happy to talk to you about it. I think that we covered most of my thoughts. Yeah, I think this is the game that everybody should play. I think that some people are going to like it more than others, like any game, I guess. But it's a fun one. It's beautiful, and it's a game that I'm going to keep installed on my rig for a while because I'm probably going to want to go back into it and just kind of like walk around and get some more photo mode shots of places that I haven't gotten photos in and stuff like that. And eventually, probably most likely years from now, I will give it another shot and we'll check back in then.
yeah. Yeah, I love the Cyberpunk world. If you haven't watched the single season of Edge Runners, I highly recommend it after playing the game if you haven't seen that yet.
Yes. Yes, I've been waiting for that and I'm gonna do that.
It is awesome. I would argue it heightens your experience, whether it's playing the game first and then watching the show, or watching the show first or then playing the game. If you've seen this, or if you've only played the game and haven't seen the show yet, I highly recommend it. I think it really, without spoiling anything, it adds the feels that is sometimes missing in the game with characters and kind of what it would be like to live in this world. Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Anate and I have already watched it once. I think we're going to watch it again because even she likes it that much. So it's very well done. And again, it's a quick one season. The episodes are pretty short, and highly recommend it if you enjoyed Cyberpunk the game.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. In fact, I was thinking about that throughout my whole playthrough, and I wanted to wait till I beat Cyberpunk to kind of watch it as a little treat. And I often thought while I was playing the game, if there was if there was a show set in this universe, I think I would be more into it than I am a game even at the moment. So I'm excited to check it out, and I'll have to let you know what I
Heck yeah,
think.
absolutely. All right, Choom.
Okay,
Oh,
well, hold
okay.
on. Actually, now that you said that, I have to say this in closing. If you're doing an historical adaptation, you're allowed to use historical language when it's appropriate and when it flows with your rendition of the thing. If you're doing a rendition of the future, just use modern language because it's almost always interpreted by the viewer or the listener as yes, they might be speaking differently in the future, but since we don't have any way of predicting what that's going to be, we're using the language we have now and assuming that it's some sort of translation into what it will be in the future. You know what I mean? If you try to invent words, all you do is sound like an idiot. And it really bothers me. It takes me out of the whole experience. If you say, gotta clip that thing, bro, or preem, that's a preem, or give me 2 millisecs. Like you're trying to sound futuristic and cyberpunky and sciency, but it doesn't sound that. It just sounds, and I'm not sure if this is established in the board game and they're trying to stay faithful to that. I think that's probably a high possibility, but it was kind of cringe, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it stinks because pop culture will always be pop culture, regardless if it's the past, present, or future. Everyone's going to create new slang and sayings, and the kids are saying 6, 7 these days, and it's dumb and cringe or what have you. I think like that much is very
Yeah.
persistent and realistic, but when yeah, I don't know. It's just like when it's out of place, it's out of place. It just doesn't. I feel like you could still do this and do it in a way that's not so on the nose. And admittedly, I do like Preem. I do like Preem because of Primo. I think that one's pretty realistic as far as what's already established and like pop culture phrases. But some of the stuff, gig, I'm okay with gig. I think that one's fine. But there's some.
But a grown man today saying primo is not a grown man, you know? Or he's being ironic in some way. There's no way some like gritty merc out there in the United States somewhere is saying primo, bro. Like
Yeah,
that's not going to be something
yeah.
that they say.
But
I think I have to call
yeah,
attention. Go
but it
ahead.
would be it could be something like that, but different. Or I believe that you could have pop culture slang be done in a way that makes sense.
I think you have to be really, really careful and really, really calculated
Right,
when you do
right.
it. I'm going to call attention back to The Expanse for a second because The Expanse will add things. I mean, The Expanse kind of invents a new language, but they will say, and The Expanse, for anybody who doesn't know, is a sci fi series based on the United States, or sorry, not the United States. It's based on the solar system a few hundred years in the future. And we have not faster than light travel, but we have very, very fast travel, so we can get around the solar system relatively easily. And there's people out on the asteroid belt who are kind of a stratified culture at this point, and they kind of live out there and they're impoverished and they're kind of taken advantage of by the inners, which is like Mars and Earth, right? And the belters have their own slang, and they use a combination of different languages that usually third world languages that would make sense for the belters to kind of be. It's an amalgamation of all the already stratified cultures that are on Earth right now. And I think that's a really interesting way to do that is you're taking something you're trying to extrapolate what the most realistic version of the future would be. And I think that's they do it in a kind of a classy way. Another thing they do is they'll say, "Oh, I'll catch you down the well," which is what they really mean is I'll catch you back down the gravity well, which is planet side. So like if they're up on a spaceship, they'll say, "Oh, you're going to Earth? Okay, I'll catch you down the well." That's taking slang that makes sense for the world that they're in. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? It feels like with Cyberpunk, they're making slang for the sake of slang that sounds cyberpunk. And I think those are two different concepts, and I don't think CD Projekt Red got it quite right with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and you know what? It might be completely an adaptation from the existing lore, and they're just like, this is what it
Exactly.
is in the tabletop, and now we're placing it in the game,
And if that's what it is, that's okay.
and I think in some ways, I think gang culture is something that will certainly make up its own sayings and phrases and things. You're part of the gang because you talk like this or you act this way,
Yeah.
and in that way, I can see it. But again, it really just boils down to, does this feel organic? And if it doesn't, it just feels off.
I think the word corpo is actually pretty good.
Yeah, Corpo's great. I like that one too.
Any final thoughts for Cyberpunk?
That's it. I think we got it.
Cool. Another one.
Another one. Yeah, I'm glad that we finally were able to have this conversation. We were both able to have this experience and have the experience be in the best way possible. Very stoked.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And this has been a long time coming, and I'm glad we had this conversation. Hope people listening liked it, and yeah, on to the next one. I'm editing our Game of the Year discussion that will hopefully be out within 7 days of us recording, and then I'll start working on this one. We'll get that one out too.
We're
We're doing
doing
it.
it. That's for real. We're doing it live.
I don't know what our next one's gonna be, but we'll figure it out, and we'll be back hopefully within a few weeks or so.
Until next time.
Catch you later, Chew. If you're doing an historical adaptation, let me say that because I stuttered a little bit. If you're doing an historical adaptation, I did it again. God damn it.
It's not just me. Yes.